Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening. As Joseph mentioned, it's a wintry night, but your resolve to be here probably has a calling in you in certain situations of life. We stand in the junction of a crossroad, not because it's easy to stay there, but we can't be so sure what needs to do to make or better, or maybe we're not confident to make the change. The good change we seems too mean to make a change. It seems the past difficult things that we made mistakes of are haunting us in some ways, that we do have a resolve, like a pilot light, but it isn't quite igniting enough to make a good shift. Does that ring a bell in you? Maybe I can make this talk tonight a little bit more as a conversation as we progress, but I will first set the scene to make it relevant to each of our time. Joseph mentioned about my life and how our family has to leave our country, not because we were invited, not because we found foreign countries look much greener place to go to, not because there was an embassy there that was issuing visas overseas, not because we were all well packed and have a round the world ticket won from a ballot or a jackpot, but because tragedy struck our whole nation. Some people can travel far or cross the borders very easily because it's maybe the border is near and they have some money or whatever. Our family was completely opposite. We were situated far northern grassland of Tibet, where our only possessions were animals, the yak, horses, and animals. So for a nomadic family to travel somewhere outside the country to take all that animal and to seek safety is almost unthinkable. Yet that was the very thing we did. But of course I wasn't resolving to do that at those days. My parents, and with the help of the village leaders, decided to make that sacrifice of your mountains, of your land, of your rivers, of the valley, of all the places that you grow and play with your animals. You all now have to pack and go, not because you want to, but you're forced to. So this puts us the word resolve. Maybe you have similar situations in your life, not as dramatic as that, but being able to have the resolve to situate oneself better, so that continuation of fear and insecurity and death and destruction that is facing your people makes your time very untenable. So now, if you sort of unzoom that and bring it into your life, there may be some situations where you had to make some resolutions. It's so tempting to retaliate or harm or to make the others feel responsible and feel that we have justified reason to do distractions of the other who's threatening you or who's causing you insecurity. But that's the kind of temptation most people unhesitatingly resolve to do. So it's not a lack of resolve. How wise a resolve it is. Often it's hard to love or forgive for those who might appear to be causing some trouble to your life, but seems much easier to resolve to retaliate, to make them pay for what we appear to be going through. So it's not the lack of resolve; it's the resolve that we unhesitatingly take on, which is resorting to aggression and therefore justification of what we do. And it might even feel that you can change the situation better by doing that. Otherwise, the threat that you felt can be de-escalated if you strike back. Not just metaphorically, physically, but do something, try to stop that happening to us. Might mean we have to make them, incapacitated. Often we are planning and scheming. How can we stop them doing such and such to me? And there's hardly any hesitation, but kind of an assertion that I have to do. Aggression, retaliation doesn't allow us to think that it might be the resolution to aggression and mutual harm. So, if we were to hesitate, the first resolve to strike back, and then that means we really have to change, because to strike back and retaliate is not really a great change. Maybe that's just a perpetuated behavior we have. That's only the way we knew. So there's no real change there. So even though resolve seems pretty strong, but that's not a change. That's a perpetuation. That's just repetition of the old habits. So change is something sometimes tempting, almost envisaging the great benefit will come if I took this. But actually, one is unconscious that very aggressive behavior is perpetuation of one's own old habits. One has been harmed more by that to oneself than one alleges others have instigated one. Now, this is what makes whether one is growing or not. We don't grow if we do the perpetuated aggressive behavior repeatedly. We don't grow from it. We only destroy ourselves. We destroy the others. And so there's hardly any survivors. And causes of the depression amongst others are probably those mutually destructive behavior of two. Amazing. So all the depression among society is usually caused by egocentric people who fail to grow, who think they could change things for better, but only they're changing it to make it worse. And that is no useful resolution whatsoever. Indeed, it does not grow to love. And one will probably, it becomes very corrosive for one's own future. It already is blindingly wrong right now in the time when that one is resorting to those behaviors. So I remember as a young boy in high school realizing, I'm in a country where I'm not a person of, and where I came from wasn't allowed to be. Am I allowed to be fully fledged person where I am? No, I'm not. I'm displaced person. I'm unwanted. They have name for people who they don't want in the country. They call Kampo. The Kampo means vagrant. Yeah, we were vagrant. we were vagrant. So even in the class, they will call you that. And, so if you perform very well in the study, also they'll call you name because you are given that name. So as a young boy, I used to have this what do you call conflict in me in terms of why me, why me or why my people. This is the aggression. This is the self-preservation. This is the ego talking. And there wasn't the boy saying this is ego. The boy wasn't saying there was an ego. The boy was saying terrible world out there that made me and my people go through this. I remember watching some commemorations of the day we lost our country and so on, where people were giving very emotional speeches, including on my own father, and who would go and burn the red communist China's flag into fire, all that sort of thing, And they thought it was brave, they thought that was the right thing to do, and so forth, you see. So we could see that we are peaceful. We want to be a peaceful person, but we're burning symbols of a country or people ignorantly, thinking it's going to sort of bring some change, for the better. Of course it doesn't. It only aggravates. But I was just a young boy watching all these things, and then when I, of course, then when I became a monk, I went full time in the monastery. I was already going to the monastery around age of 13, but only in the mornings and evenings. Daytime going to school. So and then. Not much awareness of what the teaching was, what the teaching as a survivor was really the thing, and identity crisis was the thing. It wasn't so much. Is there any teaching at all? If you can speak the local language, at least you can stand up for yourself, and at least I came up a few times, the top of the class, feeling, oh, that's a really good thing. Now they can't think I'm nobody. That I'm somebody, that kind of childish pride, Of course, those are the change time when we don't grow emotionally or spiritually. We probably grow destructive emotions and bias and division and what causes the suffering most. It almost seems like encouraged. But when I went to the monastery full time, which meant that I have to part from my parents, and it seems there was no real fear in parting them. There was a natural sort of inclination that we will have to part. We're so used to parting. We parted our land, we parted our yaks and animals that you loved them, you spent time with them, and you became without any yaks. By the time you descended into the lowland, you then have to live without any animals. These are not as a pet. These are your everything, your life, your companion, your income, your work, your everyday activities. Anyway, so I remember my mother was one time very, very ill, and so that's I can now reflect that as a desperate thing, how to get her well, and they brought the shaman healer. In the nighttime, and this shaman has to be possessed, and it takes about 30 minutes for him to get really possessed. He has to unbecome himself. Somebody else has to possess him to know what he can do to heal or to find out what's wrong with my mother, And so he got possessed. Really, you can see he's totally possessed. He's a frail old man. But once he's possessed, he's really like a young man, jumping up and down, dancing, playing. And before he would take any questions, just showing off that he's now fit. And he said, he sort of, through his ritual, he said that my mother was traumatized on a bridge. She was frightened on a bridge that when we were escaping, because one horse fell off the bridge, and so she was not far behind, and the bridge was, those suspension bridges, very tiny bridges. And so basically, if you're not very careful, anybody could fall. There's hardly much room where you can put your feet very well. So she got she got really traumatized at that time, and so her spirit was still lost. They say her spirit was lost. So that's. He's not predicting. He's just saying what happened. He's just saying what happened. Anyway, so of course he wasn't wrong there. I think that my father and others then verified the thing and realized how that trauma of traveling 6 months on foot, being 8 months pregnant, and then giving birth to my youngest brother on a halfway road, and then separated from rest of family for a few weeks, not knowing where it is. Finally reunited, and after you cross the border in Nepal, all your animals died due to low altitude. Even though you think Nepal is high altitude, but it's not quite in comparison to Tibet. So all the animals died, and so you become completely, you can call penniless here, but we call yakless. We became yakless. Our penny was not penny anyway, so our currency have no value anymore by the time you're wiped off of the map. So my mother, among all the family members, along with my father, were the only two who know what's really going on. Everybody else, even though we were 7 children, the 7 children, the oldest was 12. So such a young family, making such a harrowing journey for 6 months, and then crossing those dangerous places. You're always threatened by either robbers or police or border guards or anybody who don't want you, all up to get you. Anyway, so it became clear from the shaman's sort of consulting shaman that she was traumatized by what happened. Not just on the bridge, but everything that happened before that. So she was deeply hurt and sick as well. And my father was very strong. The rest of our children, our brothers, sisters, we couldn't take a lot to emotionally. Anyway, later on, this now 5 years later, we got settled in a properly established refugee settlement, and so we lived there and so on. And then, of course, I did the schooling but it became, my mother's health never improved, never improved. One illness after another, and then she was suffering from tuberculosis, and she had to take 1 injection every day, but still there's no sign of actual recovery, So then afterwards, she met my teacher, His Eminence Choedak Rinpoche, and then he recommended that she should make a big resolve to change her way of thinking of her life. that how it was or how it had been hard on her, saying that you actually made into safety, brought all the family, however young they were, into safety, whereas others have perished and died on the road. Some never made it. Others, only half of them came. Most died on the road. So he advised her to think, to resolve differently, that your life actually is fortunate, that you actually made into safety, into a land, whereas others have not. And so she should take up prostration. She should take up this Buddhist practice to do daily prostration, to purify your karma. Because to resolve means you gotta think how differently you will take the direction. And she wasn't negatively complaining about anybody, but it's quite obvious that all the things that happen has really beaten her to death. Plus being pregnant and all that, and having to feed all the young family, and without any kind of gas or electricity to cook, all on cow dungs, and if they have any dry ones. And if not, how are you going to keep the family very fed and warm? So a very big work for a very frail old woman, Anyway, so then she took up the prostration. She took up 300 prostration a day as a spiritual purification of herself. And then this is her story, really, how she resolved and changed, and then grew stronger to practice the way of the Buddha, to love all sentient beings, including those you think are direct perpetrator of your suffering. But you see, they themselves are driven by some other miseries that they have no control of doing that. And so then she turned, what we call maybe full-time like a practitioner, doing 300 prostration. That's only the physical bit of it. And then she cured the tuberculosis. No need to take any antibiotics or injections, anything. She just completely cured her. And she lived until 95. Only 2 years ago she passed away. So as I was thinking of this topic, I was thinking of how to look at one's own life's maybe sad bits or difficult bits or some other difficult bits, and how they have resolved, how they have changed, and how we should not stay stuck in our past and have the same anger and angry and resentful and negative attitudes. If we're staying that, we are not resolving. Even the more we justify the anger, that much we are not resolving. So, resolve all the way to love. You have to change not to do the same thing over again. And if you do, you're not growing. You're actually aging. Maybe quick growth. Quickly aging is not called growth, is it? Quickly aging is called aging. Yes, because a lot of people are biologically not so old, but they look very, very old. Because they're thinking corrosively. They're brooding anger and resentment. They're belting themselves or others. When they do that, even they are relatively young, or they have physical resources, food and all that value, but yet inside something is basically very corrosive, negative, destructive emotions. So with this, I would like to propose that we look at the resolving and unresolving. Maybe there are a lot of unresolved issues, unresolved things that we are not comfortably able to look at it, and still it's a suppressed, it's a kind of it's an issue that you still have big fight and argument with. So one needs to bring that up in your mind as an example in your mind, and for the benefit of this talk tonight, this conversation, because you are talking to me, I can see. In a minute you might do verbally. So if the more you are able to bring those up, that those unresolved issues, if you neglect them, if you procrastinate them, you just leave them, and that's the brooding. That is the corrosive. That is very harmful. That's the cause of this premature growth or aging that people takes place. Sad, despair, and depression, and anxiety, and negativities. All these things can make us go deeper into the dungeon of self-pity and poor me. So one needs to look at, okay, what are those unresolved things that I have neglected or ignored, and still the very negativities that makes us not able to resolve them are still maintained without any wish to change our opinion about it. Now that's what we're talking about. So therefore, if one actually is suppressing such issues and such painful episodes in one's mind from the very perspective in which we conceived the problem in the first place, and we haven't changed our perspective about it, we're still lamenting and mourning about it, the longer this story drags on unresolved, that much we are harming ourselves physiologically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. No matter how much food or money or clothes or everything you have, they are secondary. They have very least benefit. So that's why one has to cognitively rise up to inform oneself how to reform oneself. Because if you don't inform yourself, this teaching is all about how to inform ourselves. That how to correctly inform, correct information. Previously we've been informed, but incorrect, biased, deluded informations. And we are subscribing to them as fact, when in fact these are only badly concocted views of our own selfish mind. And only if we have the ability to inform that and then say, really? Oh, I have been, all my data is relatively incorrect thus far. Oh, we are not saying it is, but if you're not happy still about it, it must be. Because the effect is pretty obvious. So we are not saying you're wrong or you're right. You can tell from yourself you're still mourning and you're still suffering, you're still despairing. So obviously you have to reform your perception of that and retell a new version of the story. You know, if the old version is accurate, you can always claim it back. Nobody is going to sort of beat you for that. So if you really think your old version is fantastic and it's really going to give you a lot of reward, it should have given by now. But it has failed tremendously. So do we have to reinterpret this bad omen? No. Therefore, we need to look from another perspective. Because if you have another perspective, maybe it's from try to be in the shoes of the other or somebody else. If they were to witness that situation, they're quite different, you know. Then we have the benefit of freedom from our egocentric mind. We are actually being able to look from someone else's fresh point of view and then look at it from that point of view. Because our own selfishness is the root cause of all suffering, according to Buddhism. Other people's wrongdoing is only secondary. only a small immediate condition. But the fundamental cause is our own self-centeredness. So our assumption that my view is correct is the root cause of suffering. So the very view that we have itself has been poorly sort of, I would say, concocted. Because of that, much of the problem is pretty much the consequences of that. So one way to resolve is that unsatisfactoriness or that suffering that one has to be understood to be not only the nature of your experience, but nature of all living beings. You should universalize it. This is what, universalize it. So if our suffering has to be not personalized, but universalize it. So meaning others have, when you go in, look from the other person's shoes, you know their story, their personal sufferings of life, their story is just as almost identical of yours, because we both have the same bacteria called ego grasping. So long as the selfishness is sort of remedied, there will be unsatisfactoriness. That's the Buddha said. But the Buddha got enlightened by experiencing this. He didn't just made it up. He just didn't think one morning, this is going to be my motto. No, he didn't decide like that. He was very careful in not quickly hashing out things. And he even recommended people that no matter how convincing you may find his teaching, he said, don't hastily take it up. Take it, test it, scrutinize it until it is really proving to be useful. Don't accept it because you have faith in him or whatever. He says, faith is not going to work here. Faith is just nice for a little while when you're in a positive state, but when you really have to pull up the real lift the work, and it's not going to be the faith. You got to resolve yourself. Faith is a very lazy practice. We call blind faith. Resolve means you got to open your eyes. Resolve means you got to open your eyes. One is telling, look. One said, don't look, just believe me. Now, which one you will choose? Resolve means you got to look and check. Not believe. Even the Buddha said, don't believe me, because I have said so. And I think that is a great saying. And which he therefore empowers everyone to find out themselves if there's any alternate way to interpret that story. And then can find a resolve. And usually you do. As soon as you look from somebody else's point of view, you look from their, you try their shoes, so to speak. You never knew they had that story to tell. You thought only you had that story to tell. I no longer have that self-pity anymore as I used to. I must have resolved it somewhere along the line last 30 years. But there was a lot of difficult time, I always used to think, oh gosh, can't the world help me and my people? But then later on we realize, we hear from His Holiness Dalai Lama, he says, he tried to encourage his people, he says, we are not only country that has been refugee. India has been invaded by Britain and was controlled for 200 years. It only got independent in 1947. I said, oh, really? We never heard that before, because we didn't think of ourselves as Indians and having to live what was their time was. And then he says, there are so many other countries, much bigger and powerful than ours, have too been completely invaded and destroyed by the war and so on and so forth. And he says, how poorly the refugees are coping, but how good we can cope, he said. We have Dharma, he said. Others have not dharma, they have nothing. They just resort to violence and weapon and retaliation and do that. And you see, he says, all people have the dharma, the Buddhist teachings. The others get all the things, but they get weapons. They get weapons. Of course, we didn't want anybody give us weapons. We didn't believe in weapons in the first place. Let alone given by somebody else later. He says, we have true refuge because we don't resort to violence. If you don't resort to retaliation, that is already refuge. That's the best refuge, Those who resort to retaliation is actually not resolution. It's actually perpetuation. Means worsening. A lot of, I'm sure, your individual life situation, when you try to resolve a situation, the thing what we're doing to resolve the issue is actually adding to the problem, because we don't have the humility to admit our own bad contribution to the situation. We have to acknowledge, sorry, this is my wrongdoing, and so therefore it had impinged on you. That may have made you to do this or do that. So it was really my fault. If you say that, it's amazing resolve. Being able, that's selfless. Now we're really learning to conquer the ego. Because if the cause of the problem is ego grasping, we have to let the ego recognize the ego's wrongdoing. It's like ego is your bad child, and you tell your friend, "Oh, it's my son's wrong." It's okay, It's not your son's wrong. My son did it. It's like that. And your neighbor thinks you're a great mother because you at least admit your son's mistakes. Now we have to be the big mother. Oh, it was my ego son. The ego son did it. Yeah, I'll tell him not to do that. Yeah, think like that. See, now you are sort of you can separate yourself that is good self that's worthy of sort of recruiting, and you're getting rid of the self that has did something wrong. When you do that, then it doesn't feel threatening to the other. Yeah? If you don't do anything threatening to the other, then even if they did the threatening, you are actually de-escalating it. You are de-escalating, isn't it? You are de-escalating it. Because of that, you are truly changing the situation. Why? It has taken the sting of the problem away. Because others don't feel threatened by you. Otherwise, as soon as they did something, they're waiting, thinking we're going to ambush them anytime. And a lot of people are always waiting on an opportunity how they can ambush back. That is not resolving. That is resenting. Resentment is corrosive. It is destructive emotion. Modern psychologists call it destructive emotion, because it's destructive to your biology, to your neurons, to your blood, to your heart, to your very emotional and element in the body, that the hormones of what kind of fluid you produce, what kind of blood you have or you don't have, is because why your blood is becoming very thick that you have to take blood thinning tablet. Who made it thick in the first place? The word thick says a lot, isn't it? Yeah. So if we are not mentally exercising, emotionally not exercising, we're still believing our neurosis, our sadness, our anger. If we are subscribing to them, we are not resolving. And therefore, we are not changing. And, of course, we are not growing. We are aging. And are we loving? No, we're hating. Exactly opposite. So, think of the opposite of these four words. And that is usually the cause of most sufferings. and pains and poor me's. So mind is amazing. Our mind has amazing potential. The potential that mind has is the first being able to pay this kind of attention and really talk to your heart and clear your head and have a different conversation with yourself. You have to really have a different conversation. We call monologuing. You have to have a very different conversation about your past, about what you think of somebody or yourself or like that. And later on, when I had my struggle, then when I became monk and studied, and then I get to know about the Buddha, and he was a king or whatever, his story is amazing. And then he gave those all up. He felt this very luxury, power, prestige, and respect and honor, and everything became more of a cause of his own. He felt that these things can slow your growth. This will not mature you. So therefore he renounced all of that and went to the forest to seek truth and to overcome his physicalness. Because usually all our problem is grasping to I that we identify with body. And he realized as long as we become slave of our five senses, we are not resolving or changing or growing. We are in fact indulging into the senses, and as a result of this, our mind is not able to distinguish between what is a real pleasurable and what is a actual cause of sufferings. Childish people seek temporal pleasures, temporal victories. And whereas those who do not see any kind of a thing that people desire as undesirable, so he realized he doesn't desire power and position. He got exact opposite, because he already has it and he knows it's not everything. And so he doesn't have any craving for the power and position because he already has it. Even power or positions are unsatisfactory when the ego grasping is impinging you. When he discovered that we have to overcome that, then you recognize that what are the destructive emotions, and when you're able to have this good conversation with yourself, which is thinking, teaching us to think. Buddhism is just helping people to get rid of the thinking disorder. People suffer from thinking disorder. It's not a mental kind of illness as such, but thinking disorder. Thinking disorder. Nobody will diagnose you out there, okay? So pretty safe. But people don't realize, it's my thinking. If you can say, it's my thinking, that means at least you can change it, But when you actually think, it's him, it's them, they did to me, you have no resolution until you drop that wrong view and saying, it's my thinking, it's them. You have to separate our thought from what the object are. As soon as you do that, then you realize you can modify your thinking. And then you bring some order in the thinking. Yeah. It's the perfect order of thinking is called enlightenment. It brings light. It's just almost like it just takes the dense, tense energy from your mind and from your emotions, even from your body. You will feel this lightness and softness. You can really taste your food better, appreciate the things you have once you start bringing some order love, If when your thinking is in a good order, then you will practice loving kindness. You will do things that will please others or make yourself happy to do. You don't force yourself to do if you are not doing it from your heart. So just leaving your head, go to the heart, makes you to really feel in your heart. Will you want to do this? Do you want to say this to this person? Will this make them happy? Will it not upset them? Yes, it will upset them. Oh, how do you know? I went downstairs to the heart chakra and they have a totally different conversation down there. Oh, where's that? Just down the road. Oh, really? You never told me that. Oh, it's called heart chakra. It's called the heart, Usually it's all in the head, It's all thinking disorder. All thinking disorder. So you got to resolve to leave the head and go to the heart. And meditation does that. When you meditate, you try to calm your thoughts. You focus your attention to the breath or the posture or whatever. Slowly, it tries to ease your busy thinking mind mentality. And as a result of that, you feel soft. And all of a sudden, you feel the peace. Peace is possible. Peace means stopping the war. They call war and peace. They don't call peace and peace. So you have to actively look, Look, resolve means to look, what is the cause of the unhappiness? Because there's a war up in the head. And you got to stop fighting. Stop thinking it's them. Or stop even in belting yourself. Means stop. Stop the old habit, mostly mental habits. Physical habit, society will restrain you, don't you worry. They'll stop you. Verbal habit, society will stop you. They'll report you next day if you say something bad today, and they'll make you suffer for that. But mental attitudes, nobody can detect it. So nobody can correct that. But yet, that is the most destructive one that people have no way of asking others to guard yourself or prevent you from doing this offense. Physical offense is easy to be detected. Verbal offensive, everybody witness you to do that. But a mental offense, who will detect that? If you are not watchful. Watchful doesn't mean you have to wear watches all over your hand like this. Watchful means you should be watching introspectively. What am I thinking that's really, really unuseful? This is destructive thoughts. This is logical. This is erratic. This is selfish. This is unkind. This is unreasonable. When you're meditating, you begin to sort of recognize them. You mark them. You tag them. You study your mind. You tag. Some people study birds. They tag the bird. They put a little mark and let them fly, and then that kind of thing. So good at studying other things. Modern science. Studying everything out there that moves or don't move. But not knowing what's going on in here. So even study of mind, they can't study, because they can't sit still. That's the whole thing. They can study human behavior by testing on rats, or something like that. Behavioral study is totally different from cognitive subjective analysis. Meditation is detecting your own mind and telling those thoughts to drop those thoughts and go to the heart to verify usefulness of keeping them or not. Whether I should host and post these thoughts or not. Sometimes you wonder whether it's useful even just to show to yourself, let alone sharing to others. Even for yourself, you would delete it. In the modern technological era, we can use those analogies. Still, please don't share your thoughts. Because people think their opinions are king of opinions. They don't realize that most of their suffering comes from their own opinionatedness, their over-opinionatedness. Their own opinions is usually causing their problem, and they don't want to resolve to drop it. So meditation is very powerful. When you sit in meditation, practicing sitting down meditation, the whole posture of the meditation of the person is learning to love oneself first. You can't love others. I tell you, you can't love others. You can possess others, you can control others, you can call it love, but you are not. But you can only love others once you're doing something that is making yourself happy. That is changing the bad thoughts, bringing some order in your thoughts. And then you realize, that nobody can do to you. They can hang your clothes, and they can iron your clothes, and they can do all those things. They can do all sorts of physical things, but they can't iron your thoughts. They can't dry your wet clothing of that mind. But you have to do it yourself, you see. So it's only, Buddha said, you are the only master. You are your own master. He's never said, I will be the master, have faith in me, I'll reserve the front seat in nirvana for you. He never said that. He never mentioned there being a seat in nirvana either. Nirvana isn't a place where you book a seat and then lays around doing nothing. You are needed here. Where you are for a reason. So feel useful to do whatever you do. Be a servant. Be a happy servant. Be a performer of your service. Whatever it is, not status. It's a good heart is the highest status. If you have good heart, they say, person who sweeps the temple reaches enlightenment before the abbot. It's not the nature and position of the job that you get enlightened. It's the good heart. So if you have the good heart, and then you no longer are nagging what you have to do. You do it, at least makes them a little bit, it eases them a little bit, but if you're so willingly doing it, otherwise it is chore, you're resenting what you have to do. You have been doing, you still have to do, but you're not resolving to change the attitude. So, willing to do, we're almost doing so willingly that the people can tell the feeling and energy that you generate around you is soft and loving and giving. It's so different from when somebody's doing resentfully and someone doing willingly. Yes, so he's talking about that, here. This is not just talking about a huge interpersonal problem, This is talking about where you do work at work. Lots of people are doing it with sort of half-heartedness, unwillingness, almost like a very mean, calculated way. Very corrosive. But one has to do it wholeheartedly and lovingly. Then you have definitely left your head. You are in a good heart. Because of that, your energy and feelings and energy that you put in is very, very, very generous, very, very caring and tender. There's a lot of gentleness around it, and you have to be thoughtful how to make it look and is gentle to others. What would be the best way that I should do this? The doing itself is not so important, but how carefully I do to make them feel whatever is best they will be receiving. putting yourself in their shoes and then see what would they like me to do this. How would, not just put yourself in the shoes of others in terms of empathizing their misery, but in even doing what we are trying to do good. Maybe you're doing your work. You just, this is how you do it because it's written in the book. That's what the book says, But the book doesn't know how it will feel the people. You should be a person the book says this, but how should I do best so that this person, from that point of view, will receive very well. This is the resolve we're talking about. Lot of people, that's not my job. And people do like that. They could have easily helped. But they're not willing. That's not my job. As they're going to lose something if they try to be usefully helpful. So mean, Not wanting to do because it's not my job. But in the meantime, the person who's supposed to be doing is not there. A lot of stress comes from this compartmentalizing. My duty, his duty, is not my business. And then and because everybody's duty is interdependent on each other, If you did it, next time you can tell the person, you weren't there, I did that. And they will be delighted that you did it in your place. Of course you say next time if they say, no, please leave it, don't do that, then of course you know how to do it, because some people are like that. And then you realize that's the kind of shoes they wear. Okay, sorry. You tried once and you wouldn't try that again because it wasn't received very well, yeah? So often we know that. And as a result of that, what does this word resolve means is that we try to bring some new information that it softens our mind and create a spaciousness, and you feel a little bit, you have more space around you, that there's a lot of gentleness. And when you have that between communication with the head and heart, because true love means from your heart, you have to do something, say nicely, do beautifully, with great care. They say TLC. This is not Buddhist terminology. TLC, tender loving care. Now think of the opposite of tender. Opposite of loving. Opposite of care. Let's go backwards. Carelessness. Yeah, when we are not caring, we are doing careless. We don't care. Yeah? And we are not doing lovingly, we're just very, very abrasive, very aggressive, very rough. And no tenderness, Often that is when the mind is not in our hand. What we call mindfulness really means that you have your own mind in your hand. Okay? When you have what does it feel like when you have your mind in your mind? You straight away become brightened up by this cognition. You could see yourself, room to move, instead of staying in that dark corner. You know it's a dark corner. You didn't know it was dark corner. You realize I shouldn't be standing on this place very long, so I should at least move towards the light. So they say in Buddhism there are 4 types of people. First type of person is stay in the darkness, not knowing it's darkness. Second person is person who knows it's the darkness, but still wouldn't try to find the light. Third person is who knows he need to avoid darkness, and he at least try to be in the light. Fourth person is not taking for granted that he is in light, but try to get places where there's more light. So they say, go light to light, or darkness to darkness, or darkness to light. And others, very few, would be going from light to darkness, because they never is in the light. How could you make it dark? So to resolve means you have to know that I cannot allow myself to be in this angry, resentful, this story that you believe totally, but the more you tell yourself, the more bad you feel. And so that's one story you told too many times. It's already bad once. It's awful. Do you want to tell it again to anybody, particularly yourself? Yeah, people doing that. That's the staying darkness in darkness without knowing it's darkness. That's not resolving. That's unresolving. So resolving means, this is darkness. I shouldn't think of this like about him or her or like that. This is really, even though I saw that from my point of view, but this is so harmful for my own perception and my own fitness to see things good in them. I can't see any good in them as a result of holding this view. Particularly say it's about your mother or the father. If you happen to conceive a bad perception or you just read it wrongly, and then that's going to hinder your ability to see all the good they have given to you. Yet these people are suffering. They have been cursed by this. And they don't know that should be thrown. This is resolve. There are a lot of things people can do, individuals. I'm sure you are here for that. You need to recognize that and time yourself. I'm going to differ from this view from now onwards. Then you are resolving. Then not only resolving, you're changing. Because previously, every time you thought about it, you compacted even more. You reiterated even more, and you couldn't differ your view. The more you think, that much it is despairing you, and that is aging you. This is what ages people. You can't wear creams. You can't wear things on your surface when inside you're aged. Inside you are crunched. What's the point of stretching outside? So Buddhism is inner beauty therapy. Yes, really. Very inner beauty therapy. It will really make you feel light and soft. And as a result of that, when you give rise to those resolution, kindness, forgiveness, even if somebody did do wrong, we're not saying they didn't do any wrong, but that's got a merit, At least if you have good heart, if you come from head to heart, that's what you can forgive. You don't forgive for someone for doing good things. So you can never forgive if somebody doesn't do bad. So at least you have excellent opportunity to forgive. And that is beautiful. They say beautiful. If you see somebody forgiving somebody, if you are just the witness, you see, so beautiful. You find hope in humanity when people forgive each other, isn't it? When you are witnessing somebody practicing that, it makes you think they are beautiful. Wait until you do it yourself. Then you will indeed, that is why the statues of the Buddhas are so beautiful. Because it was like a huge mental transformation went on for many hours of sitting there, nursing and conceiving this idea. You have to conceive a baby. You have to be fertile to fall pregnant. Your heart has to conceive that I can forgive. Yes, I can. When? Not too late, my dear. It's all been quite long now. Tomorrow is full moon. Very excellent day. Only 3 hours, 45 minutes left. So when the midnight strikes, you got to resolve. Yeah. Full moon, very auspicious to make a resolution. Not wait until 31st December, please, too late. That's a way we were a couple another awfully long months. Yeah. Within these 3.5 hours time, I'm going to resolve. Yeah, that's called resolution. Resolution, very important, this one. Then you have now made a time. You have made an appointment to yourself to change, from hating to loving. At least dropping the hate. Retaliation, drop it. Criticizing, drop it. Whatever it is. Talking bad things about it, drop it. That means resolution means you're going to stop. You're going to stop firing. It's called ceasefire. Yeah. Midnight strikes, ceasefire. Ceasefire. And means you stop fire. Then you have really changed. We have really changed. You couldn't believe you could do that. And then now, guard that. You got to, then you have to guard that. Guard that means you have to look after it. It's like then you will grow. Then the growth of good heart, love, forgiveness, all the what they call intelligent emotions, just naturally, simultaneously goes with this good heart. This isn't some importation from somewhere else. There's no duty free. There's no duty for that. There's no tax for that. There's no income tax for that. The border guard wouldn't notice this. You're importing this in your meditation. The enlightenment is free, But you gotta do it. And nobody can do it for you. You have to sit like this, and have this conversation. Initially we teach people to sit in the correct posture, breathing. But next time, once people have done that, then sit and do this kind of analytical thinking. Very analytical, very, very consultative, very, very informative, and very, very factual and liberating. Wow. And you can see your mind has become now luminous. Luminous because means awakening. You're waking. We have intelligence. We have human potential. We have human rights. But we have even more responsibility to change ourselves. When you do that, your heart starting down, then feeling loving kindness to those previously you were angry to, or you were negative about, then you feel very sorry for their misery that we have sort of become a bad mix to them that has influenced them somewhat. Now we can make a change. And then they become, now the walls collapse between you and other. There's no wall between you and them. Otherwise there was this kind of a us versus them. And then the teaching says, every time you meditate, think of your father on your right, mother on your left, all your friends behind you, all the objects of anger and resentment in front of you. And then they are your cause of love. You wanted to be able to conquer your hate, to be able to love those who they appear as doing harm to you. If you can love them, meaning they are suffering due to you, you are suffering due to them. Who's going to make a difference? Not to heaven, that anymore. So, if they have already been foolish doing some things, and we also have been just as foolish retaliating, and now these two, one of the two has to make a resolve to change that, not stay like that. And that is usually people are, it's him, he's got to do first. We want to say. People want to be the first, but they want to be second most of the time. In some kind of competitive kind of a sport, they want to be the first, In the real good things, they want to be the second, Gosh, doesn't sound resolving, does it? Doesn't seem there's a lot of resolution, isn't it? When you have the resolve to love and forgive, Yeah? You got to be the first, because you know what's like to be in their shoes. You have been in your shoes you very long. Now you have Dharma. You can think like this. They may not have the access to think like this. And so, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I say forgive me, I apologize? Whether they say or not, it's completely up to them. But the fact that we do say will make a huge difference to them. You have to be very optimistic. At least being able to say that yourself, you couldn't believe that you could surrender your pride and ego and be the first to embrace love. Love is do loving things, not just draw hearts and send them or something. That's not love. That's just do the thing that's really loving. That means that makes the other happy. You know, in Buddhism we say, may others be happy and have the causes of happiness. So what causes them happiness, if you apologize them, they're happy. Oh, he apologized me. Could you believe it? People like that, people are now tearful that their brother apologized them. You see what I mean? And then they're moved. They're moved. That power, you're so sure that it exists. You can foresee the benefit of the good if you did it. But you got to be resolved. You got to be able to foresee the benefit. And you got to foresee the negative consequences of resentment. You suffered already in the past. No need to forecast different outcome if you continue to resent. It's just double demerit, that's all. So the choice is very clear. One is medicine, one is poison. You know? Poison is free, medicine is just free. Only thing is to know it's medicine, you got to look carefully. If it's the poison, you don't even have to look. That's the difference. Buddha says, ask his monks, tell the people to look. Tell the people to look. Now they're not looking, you know. They're really not looking. They're closing their eyes. They're looking, but they're not seeing. They're seeing that things they think is the object. They don't see, that's their thought, making the object appear as. That's not looking. That's not resolution. Resolution is clear. You know, they call high resolution, they call it. Yeah, high resolution. Look carefully, then you have high resolution. Is it the object? Or what do you think of the object? Oh, in the past, we've been just thinking it's him, or she, or they. But actually, my own thought, I made them to be identical. I misconstrued myself thinking it's them, when it is only my thought that I was believing that is them. Wow. That is really now Buddhism. Buddha means awakened one. One who's waking up himself from this unawareness, this slumber, or the sleepiness, this laziness. And you make this right effort that therefore increases this. And now you will come in a full circle. The objects of resentment is when you know exactly what's like to be in their shoes, then they become objects of your forgiveness and compassion. When you forgive them, it didn't do any disservice to you. When you forgave somebody, you straight away felt, such a relief to be able to do that. Now, how many else left to forgive? Oh, the more the merrier. Now it looks like everybody deserves your forgiveness. And when you have that, that brings humility. The humility is the the remedy to the self-centeredness, which is the root cause of the problem. When you have humility, which means you acknowledge your own frailties and mistakes, when you do that, some people say, oh, when we act like this, people look down upon you and doormat you always. Well, who says you're a doormat? Why don't you be a good doormat than the door that blocks everyone from coming in? Let be a humble doormat. Don't be the door that blocks people coming in. So if people are using you for what, so maybe that is your service. Maybe that is only we can do. Humility means just do whatever that is serviceable, that is useful for them. So long as you are not warring with it or arguing with it, if your willingness gives them, then it's not a problem. Only when you're fighting with it, then it becomes an issue. So because of that, your whole ability to recognize what you have to resolve, when you have to resolve. And resolving means walk towards the light. And then try to depart where you were, that it was the darkness. That was heavy, that was negative, that was debilitating, that was almost harmful and destructive. And when you recognize that, you have informed that this attitude of yours about this, about that, about yourself, and about that issue or that thing, maybe it was very, very hard. But it was hard, but it doesn't have to be anymore. Did you know that? Oh, I thought I had to just despairingly live with the rest of my life. Who says that, No, you can change your attitude about it and gain victory from that, and that you have actually grown strong and wise from that hardships you have faced. And so, I remember that in my 3-year retreat meditation, then we had to do a lot of loving kindness meditation, compassion, forgiveness. We have to do a lot of purificatory devotional practices that actually symbolize surrendering our ego by doing bow downs, 100,000 times. Not just as a religious duty, but more as a constructive, behavioral kind of transformations. When you do that, you begin to see your mind, you resolve to change. And so when you identify your own kind of situation, you can change from staying that way to putting an end to that and move forward. And so when you realize, we are fortunate with the Dharma as we have. We can practice fully Dharma now, unlike the other times. If we were left where we were, then we will be stuck in that kind of life. So therefore, one now look at the positive side of the thing that one has become exposed to, and they say make the best out of the worst situation. That's if you have resolved. Then you will turn around, make a U-turn. Make it a U-turn, and therefore difficult situations teaches us some of the most important lessons that we would otherwise never learn in comfort. In comfort and luxury, we don't learn very much. In discomfort and challenging situation, we have to therefore seek. We are pushed by the miseries of the past that we have to find what it is this caused by. And you will find all kinds of doctrines and discourses from various things pointing out there. It's all there, all there. All your misery come from his doing, their doing. You've got to help make sure they don't do this anymore. And it's all about out there. But very few doctrines are there says that it is all and nothing that's real other than your mind thinking of it. And when you're able to sort of conceive that and then pay some attention to that,
And when you're really cognitive, this is cognitive means very much self-realizing. You have to agreeing to yourself through experience, not just thinking you agree to it, But you got to think that and then illuminate yourself. And as a result of that, some big weight over your shoulder just lifts from you. You don't have the same views and issues in your mind about that. It's like a dream because you woke up. If you woke up from the sleep, then you realize it's a dream and you wouldn't be talking about the dream so much. You might, if you're attached to a dream, you might tell a few times. But if you keep telling people, say, come on, that's a dream. Yeah, you will keep telling yourself, oh, that was a dream, when you were really asleep. Oh, really? Oh, I thought I was awake that time. No, you weren't. You was really, really asleep. So yeah, then we realize, oh, that was when I was sleeping, when you're not realizing, no, it's caused by sleep. The dream looks real, it looks all real out there. It looks like object is exactly, the elephant is in the room. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was. You wouldn't even think when you're dreaming, how did the elephant fit in the room? You just think, oh, okay. Fascinated by what the elephant is doing. So when you're thinking, you're just looking. When you're looking, this must be a dream because usually there's never an elephant in a room. Yeah. Not only that, people have herds of elephants. They have herds of elephants in their mind. That they are going and letting them go on rampage. So we have to tame the mind through meditation, and then when you're able to do that, that was when I was really asleep. That was when I just think it's all him, all them, all what they did to me. Now I realized they were mostly my projections, my thoughts. Now I can unproject them. If you unproject them, the object is just an empty screen. So the screen is empty, When you don't project it, the empty screen is empty, Whether plasma TV or white piece of cloth or whatever. Let alone people. Poor people, we just made them look that they are like them. And it's all our opinions. It's all our own views about them. We make them look alike. That they are. We don't allow them to be themselves. We think it's what we think they are. And we are suffering that, but we don't realize that. But it's good to know that we could unproject it. And that is resolve. and unprojecting it is changing. And when you do that, then you're growing. Then you're truly in light. And when you know in the light, then you know the light and love. Those who love are only those who are in the guidance of love. The light, because you can see your way. That love is the most important thing, whether it's enlightenment or Buddhism or non-Buddhism or Christianity or all combined. If no person doesn't practice loving kindness, all the above is just cultural fixations, attachments. And then, when you're able to do that, now you have to say, okay, how could I condition my mind to be in this wavelength more frequently than it is usually able to? Yeah. So you try to give the time to sit more with yourself and hold your hands. You don't hold somebody's hand just like that. At least you're holding your hands. It's a good sign. That self-love is very, very legal, It doesn't need a plebiscite.
It doesn't need to go through the parliament. It needs to go through your mind. Practice self-loving kindness. You are not making war with yourself. Oh, thank goodness. Because making war with the other is warring with yourself more times. Who want to do that? Now, when you are holding your hands in prayer or in meditation, you're starting to hatch this spacious light. You are then learning to turn to light. The word, these 4 words, resolve is an active verb. So is change. So is grow. So is love. These are not passive. All of them are active. But when you're sitting, it looks like passive. Don't be misguided by this passive-looking meditation. Sit there with the right instruction. And you know what you're doing, whether you're doing prayer or devotional things, or whether you're doing just sitting. Don't let the mind become sort of, wandering off. Just get particular techniques up your sleeves, and with the technique, try to crystallize your mind what to focus. And when you're able to do that, you're actively resolving. In that sit, some demons, some neurosis, some wrong views really dropped in that meditation. And you really rose up from the seat, a person without those conditions. Then the more times you sit, the more times you rise up lighter. Yeah, rise up lighter. And therefore your senses are really sharp and they'll see good things. They'll see the good in others more clearly. It doesn't have the bad seer switched on now anymore. It has been deactivated. That was the passive looking thing that we were doing in the meditation. You were deactivating. You were deactivating the other mind. The other mind when you're meditating. Now you have activated your mind. That is kindness. And then you start seeing good in everyone. Even they don't seem to be performing particularly carefully, but you still see the good in them. You know? The overall good is much more preciser than the incidental darkness they get distracted by. You see? Then you don't get intimidated, you don't get agitated by their incidental wrongdoings. Why? Your love is so strong. It's like a mother who loves child's mistakes. Even though the child broke something, she's still laughing. She's enjoying the baby's movement. Even though it broke few things, she's so happy. Love is so powerful. She's not attached to broken cups. She's not attached to the things that so it completely overpowers it. Amazing. Why can't we remain like every being is like a bit of a child in front of us? You don't tell them that, Of course, just keep to that child here. Careful, he might fall over you. He doesn't mean that. See? You're resolving all the time now. And changing just as quickly. And growing your heart bigger and bigger. And so doing what you output is loving. You say the things lovingly. You do the things that are really, really non-aggressive and soft and gentle. And when you do that, you must be alive. You must have come alive. You are living now. You're truly living. And that will definitely rewire your senses. You become sensible. Your senses are seeing something, what the object may be, but what you think of the object and what the object is not identical. So you don't have this feeling, I see it objectively. You are exactly as you see you type of thing. You don't have this presumptuous thinking that you know exactly what they are.
it's very difficult to tell what people are really thinking. They say animal stripes outside, but humans inside. Unless you have eye for it. But first you have to read your own inner stripes. Whether that's a reflection of that, that is seeing another, or something else. See, amazing. All of a sudden your mind now is really, really switched on to vary your perceptions and opinions, responses, reactions. You're not going to be quick sort of reactor anymore. You have to be very pausing. You're very able to pause before what you're seeing. Is it because you're looking, or you're just not looking, but just think you're seeing? Usually we think we're seeing, but we actually haven't even looked at it. Because in Buddhism, this right view, we call right view. And the Tibetan translation is not just right view. It says, again right view. Means look carefully. It will validate that what it appears is not what actually is. Like everything, when you look at it, is impermanent. It can't be the same person. Can it be? If you think they are, you haven't seen it. You haven't seen it with the right view, with the impermanence. You can't say, oh, you're the same person I met 10 years ago. So stupid. We also think we're meeting the same person after 10 years. Oh, so nice to see you after 10 years. Next time you think carefully, oh, I have to say this because that's the only language we stupid human beings communicate. But in reality, we're both very, very different. This person had no idea I've changed so much since then. You don't say, no, I've changed. I just have to keep their old name because the society doesn't have a name for every day. So I can't. Yeah, I'm sure you have changed. Give yourself a break. Don't think you're the same person. Or that someone is the same person that they used to do or they did this. It's amazing. Such a curse. If you're looking, you'll see everything is impermanent. And whether, not just seasonally, momentarily things are impermanent. If you're really looking. And so to allege somebody, give a stigma, name, oh, he's violent, oh, he's aggressive, he's this, she's this, as they did once, It's just like if you have a student who you're teaching math and he did one sort of multiplication wrong, every time he brings multiplication, you think he's wrong. Give him a break. Check carefully this time. Yeah, we think it's the same student. So often we are hurt by our own lack of plasticity in our thinking. Thinking he's the same person. Don't lump anyone with their past habits. If you do that, you're doing a great service. Then you're really resolving. We have one story that is the story of a man called Angulimala, a very violent man. Unfortunately, under misguidance, he became violent. He never knew it was violent, as most people don't. And he killed murderer because he got some bad instruction from somebody. He was killing them and picking one finger everyone he killed, and he was making garland of the fingers of his slain, and then all of the people were chasing him to punish him, and eventually he was nearly able to fulfill his his task. That was, if he'd done killing 1,000 people, then he would have reached his goal. So he was going to kill the last person, and he couldn't find anybody. And then he found his mother. Oh, he says, she will do. And as he was pursuing his mother to kill, and then in the meantime, the Buddha arrived. Buddha arrived before he can reach to his mother. And then the man, his name is Angulimala, means finger garland, because he's wearing fingers of the people who he killed. And so he thought, oh, that's great, I don't have to kill my mother, this guy will do. And so he's very fast. He's really ferocious, very fast runner. He will just make a sprint run. No matter how fast runner they are, he'll catch them and kill them. And Buddha never runs. One of the behavior of Buddha never runs, okay? So if you see anybody running, he's not a Buddha. He may have got 5 gold medals or whatever. He's not a Buddha. He's just a sprinter. Buddha is never interested to be the first one to reach the summit. So every step is a summit, For the Buddha, it's not the destination, is the summit. Every step is the summit. And so when Buddha was walking very, very gracefully, Buddha is never running, as I said. And then Angulimala was with his sword in his hand, running. No matter how fast he ran, he didn't get closer to the Buddha. And it looked at the Buddha was running very fast. And so Angulimala got, usually he never have to tell his sort of, person who is going to slay him to slow down. He never have to slow down because he was quick enough to get them. This time he ran so fast, but no matter how fast he ran, he wasn't getting closer to the Buddha. And he was astonished. And then he says, hey, you stop. He says, you stop. Because he's saying that I'm going to kill you. Anyway, you're going to be killed. You better as well might as well stop and so that I can kill you properly. And so, because he thought the Buddha was running, And of course, Buddha was not running, But he projected. He projected that Buddha was running. And then in return, the Buddha replied, you stop. And then he said, no, you're running before me. You're running so fast. You stop. And Buddha said, no, I stopped long time ago. This amazing reply, I stopped long time ago. You stop. And then Angulimala really woke up. That was like a thunderbolt, It just hit him like he heard something was really profound. He said, what do you mean? You stopped long time ago. This time he's really thinking now. Before he was never feeling, what he was doing. Buddha said, I stopped aggression and violence long time ago. And then as soon as he heard that, the teaching came like really personal, just to him. That he was really telling Angulimala he has not stopped violence. He has continuously violating people's lives. And then as soon as he heard that, he knew that this is an enlightened one. This is not ordinary person. For him to be holding this sword, brandishing this knife and chasing after him is just this. He straightaway dropped the sword and fell on knees, asked him to accept, as a disciple. And Buddha unconditionally accepted him, never seeing him what he was, but what he's becoming. So he wasn't seeing anything what he was. He's saying, but this man wanted to resolve his crisis by killing another one. He wanted to resolve something too, but he doesn't realize that's not going to resolve anything. Oh, and that exactly the way the Buddha said, I stopped long time ago. violence and aggression. This is not talking about killing or taking life. This could be resentment, anger, because lots of people in civilized society don't kill anybody physically. But in the heart, a lot of resentment, ill will. A lot of small ill will become big ill will and still kept over long time. So Buddha was saying to Angulimala then, to us now, stop that ill will, please. That's what he's saying. Against whoever it is, including oneself. The bad kind of judgment and self-criticism and self-loathing and lumping oneself with one's past, not encouraging oneself to do differently. These are things we should stop. That's what the Angulimala in us. And so as soon as Buddha said that, and he became instantly ordained. He became instantly ordained. Of course, Buddha was enlightened enough to embrace and forgive him, yeah? And he became Venerable Angulimala. Venerable Angulimala. And then, not so long after that, if the Buddha had a now new disciple who's become venerable all of a sudden. Venerable, because he has. Why is venerable? He stopped aggression. He stopped ill will. He stopped self-loathing. Yeah, he stopped thinking the kind of despairing thoughts about himself. He just resolved something, and he was thankful. He was able to meet the Buddha, who became his like a hero, Couple of hours later, the king and his soldiers arrived. So, of course, pursuing Angulimala. And so maybe you've heard he went somewhere there. And when the king and his soldiers all arrived with the sword in his hand and all arrived and dismounted the horse, looking around, it's just like police looking around. Of course, the Buddha was not in the indoor; he was just under a tree, so there's not much to hide. There were all these monks, And then, as soon as the king arrived near, the Buddha asked, "Oh, what brings your highness? Oh, what is the important duty that you are looking for?" And then the king said, "Oh, we have this terrible mass murderer. And he's been just causing havoc everywhere. And I first led all the soldiers to go around. Look, they were unsuccessful, so I came myself with my soldiers. And then the Buddha said, 'Oh, Your Majesty, what if he's not Angulimala anymore?' And then the king said, 'What do you mean you're venerable?' Straight away he was giving teaching, but king wasn't looking. King wasn't listening. What do you mean you're... What if he's not... Because king is still thinking there's truly existing violent man. But the Buddha is saying, that was then, but not anymore. No, of course. And then the king said, "What do you mean?" Buddha said, "What if that mass murderer Angulimala has become fully ordained monk and wearing Dharma robes? Would you show veneration to him?" Because king was a great disciple of Buddha, And the king said, "Of course, of course." And then the Buddha had, by that time, he's tamed everybody, And he says, "Here is Venerable Angulimala." And the king couldn't believe his eyes. And king just bowed down to Angulimala, who has now become a monk, who has completely resolved, changed, grown, and loving peace. And no longer to the violence. And since then, he's become a saint, Angulimala became a saint in Buddhist community. That, people who couldn't have babies, people who couldn't have babies for whatever reasons, because of their biology or both parents' biology or whatever karma that are restricting them, they actually have a special practice to call upon this Angulimala, the saint, because he became saint later on. Most saints are ex-murderers and ex-whatever. Nobody's born saint, okay? And so people actually in Sri Lanka, I'm told, they have a particular worship of this Angulimala by particularly, very resolving parent, but couldn't have a baby. And when they practice and worship to him, and they all conceive babies. Why? He made a vow by robbing all the people's children or killing them. Most of the people who he killed was children, because they're easy. And so then he made a vow to repair his karmic debts, to bless everyone who wish a baby. He made a vow to assist them through his spiritual power. So later on, this is during the Buddha's time. We're talking about 600 BC. And then about 2 century AD, Nagarjuna wrote a letter. In this letter, he says, look at how Angulimala resolved, changed, and grew and loved. And we too, maybe we are not as bad as him. Maybe that's our problem. Anyway, so sort of relatively speaking, we have a bit of a miniature Angulimala. A lot of aggression, a lot of anger, and a lot of resentment. It's not good. Angulimala at least didn't hesitate, just cut everybody's. But we are just holding on to something like that so long. It's worse, actually. Angulimala was misguided by bad instructions. We are misguided by our own ignorance. So that's why this talk is about how to have a conversation deep down within your heart, and then pay heed to what you're really saying to yourself. And it will benefit so many people. Everyone and anyone who get to know you will find hope, because you will be practicing. You will be doing that very thing that is promoting through carefulness and tender mindfulness way to soothe the sufferings of others and not escalate them, and try to find a way to skillfully, no matter what you have to compromise from your side, skillfully give in until you are able to make them feel loved and respected. Once you are able to done that, then they too will find hope in humanity. If everybody is very mean and aggressive to each other, that's why people are not finding much examples. They haven't met anyone doing that. Then how can they emulate what they haven't seen? Because we are basically copying things. So we need to be exposed to this kind of thinking, this kind of attitude, this kind of discourses, and mostly this kind of attitudes. Make it more regular, this way of thinking. And that is already a great result. So we'll have some few little minute more time to have some response or comments or question. If you have, please feel free. No questions. We will sit 5 minutes very quietly in meditation. Just to recap in your mind what was the gist of gist.
that you heard in your heart that really need to be resolved. I wasn't joking about full moon. Yeah, full moon's coming in 3 hours. And full moon is very auspicious. You can have a moon cake. There's a moon cake happening somewhere. So just sit up and just listen to your heart, and pay heed to that, and identify them, and resolve. And you're already changing. See the softness, energy that is spreading in your heart, taking away all the tension, the wrong views, the ill wills, all dispelled. And your whole senses are sharp, and your hair pores are wide open, sending waves of pulsating energy of enlightening, reverberating conversation that you can always turn to have this conversation in yourself. Take liberty to sit down a few minutes and see all the good with your fully open senses that looks all things so beautiful, be that the tree or the leaves, the birds, or the people cleaning the yards, repairing the roads. All are doing their bit with great love and kindness. I must salute all this that people willingly do. So must I emulate. Now to conclude this evening's very important participation by everyone. I'm sure there's lots of people who you are thinking kindly of, including yourself. And may this spread from one to one like a culture, and may this spread far. So you, quite few of you will know this prayer, but maybe some of you don't. So, but you can repeat after me. May all beings, may all beings have happiness, have happiness, and the cause of, and the cause of happiness, happiness, may they be free, may they be free from suffering, from suffering, and the cause of, and the cause of suffering, suffering, may they never part, may they never part from the happiness, from the happiness that knows no, that knows no suffering, suffering, may they dwell in, may they dwell equanimity, equanimity, free from attachment, free from attachment and aversion, and aversion to those near, to those near and far. Thank you, everyone.